In this lesson, we are going to learn about absolute value signs and how to simplify expressions with these absolute value signs. So the goal is by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the absolute value of a number and then use less than, greater than, or equal signs to simplify expressions with absolute value signs in them. So first off, before we can explain what an absolute value sign is, we have to know what a negative number is. Now, some of you may already know this, but for others it might be a new concept. So, definition, a negative number is a number less than 0. So, whenever we're counting something, we always may start with 1, and then you say there's 2, 3, 4, etc. But with this new concept of a negative number, there is a number less than 1, and that would be, or less than 0, and that would be negative 1. And negative 2 is less than negative 1. And negative 3 is less than negative 2, and so on. And again, it's just simplified. It looks like a subtraction sign, which is essentially what it is, but in this concept, we're using it as a negative number. So that's a negative sign. So that's what a negative number is. So now we use the concept of a negative number to introduce what the absolute value is. So, definition, the absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on the number line. So if we just picture a number line, and let's say 0 is right here, again, we always know that 1, 2, 3, etc. is on this side. Both these new concept of negative numbers, then we can also construct negative numbers on the left side of it. So again, the absolute value of a number is its distance from 0. So say, for example, we're going to find the absolute value of 3. Well, how far is 3 away from 0? Well, it's 1, 2, 3. So the absolute value, which is denoted as just these absolute value signs on either side, the absolute value of 3 is 3. Seems pretty simple. Now, let's try it again, only now let's find the absolute value of negative 3. Again, the definition of the absolute value is the distance from 0 on the number line. So we want to see what the distance between negative 3 and 0 is. Well, it's 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the absolute value of negative 3 is also 3. So essentially, the kind of easier way of looking at this is you take the positive amount of whatever is inside of the absolute value sign. So if you have 5, the positive amount of 5 is 5. If you have a negative 7, the positive amount of negative 7 is 7. And that's essentially what the absolute value of a number is. And again, the absolute value of a number, you look for it when it's inside of these absolute value signs. So we know what the absolute value of a number is. Now, let's go through examples. Let's go through an example on some of these expressions with these numbers. So you see with this example, we have 3 different ones of them. And I want to know, is a number less than or greater than or equal to this number? And that's what this line down here is. We're going to insert the less than, greater than, or equal to sign. So let's go through this. So what is the absolute value of negative 5 is less than, greater than, or equal to the negative of the absolute value of 5. So let's simplify these a little bit. So what is the absolute value of negative 5? Well, that is 5, because it is 5 away from 0 if we're imagining a number line. Okay, now we have the negative value of what is the absolute value of 5, because again, you're just going what is inside the absolute value signs. So the absolute value of 5 is 5. So now to answer this, 5 is less than, greater than, or equal to negative 5. Well, we know that 5 is greater than negative 5. We'll do the same example over here. So 8, so that's just simplified as is. And now we want to know, was the negative of the absolute value of 8? Again, what's on the inside of it is just 8, and the absolute value of 8 is 8. So now 8 is less than, greater than, or equal to negative 8. Well, we know that's greater than. And now this one, so we have negative 9. Again, you have no absolute value sign, so it's just that. Now you have the negative value of the absolute value of negative 9. Again, the absolute value of negative 9, since it's the distance from 0, negative 9 is 9 spots away from 0, so is 9. So negative 9 is less than, greater than, or equal to negative 9. Well, it would be equal to negative 9. So with keeping that in mind, let's go through a couple examples for you to work on. So, example, so say we have negative 9 is less than, greater than, or equal to the absolute value of negative 9. You have 2 is less than, greater than, or equal to value of 2. And then you have 17 is less than, greater than, or equal to the absolute value of negative, let's say, 100. So we're working with a different idea. I'll let you work on each of these, and then we'll come back and work on ourselves. Okay, so we'll go through them. So negative 9, okay, we're just going to leave that as is. And now the absolute value of negative 9, because it's 9 slots away, it's 9. Well, negative 9 is less than 9. So 2 is what to the absolute value of negative 2? Well, that's 2. Oh, so 2 is equal to 2. And then the last one, 17 is what when compared to the absolute value of 100, negative 100, excuse me. Well, the absolute value of negative 100 is just 100. So 17 is less than 100.